Does the name Zaboomafoo ring a bell for anyone watching this? It was a show from when I was growing up on my favorite channel as a kid, Animal Planet on the TV. It was hosted by these two dudes and a lemur named Zaboomafoo, and they would teach you about all these cool animals. I freaking love animals. In another life, I would have been a zookeeper of sorts, not this. But the whole reason I'm bringing this up is there's some recent streamer drama that is going on right now, and it involves animals, and what is effectively, at a bare minimum, a gross negligence in regard to treating animals. Now, I got this off of live stream fails, but I did some digging on Twitter too, and it was also blowing up here from Yoxic. Maya from Alvia Sanctuary got upset, and we'll explain all these other parts in a sec here, but we're talking about JasonTheWeen. He had an entire petting zoo in the backyard of the core house, which is where all these ex-phase members, after leaving, they grouped up, created the core group. So this is their large content house, and you're going to see in a sec here, he literally just set up a pen with a bunch of like farm animals, including an alpaca, and then called an owner of an animal sanctuary to showcase it, and it went about as well as you would expect that to go. But I want to make it clear, I want to give you guys some more information, and upon doing some further research about these specific animals, like specifically with an alpaca, you learn a lot more about why this is a very terrible thing to do. And I actually have a relative who has a business that includes a small petting zoo, so I actually learned about a little bit of this growing up. I think a lot of people are missing the nuance on this specific subject, so I wanted to try to maybe give a bit of information and context that I've learned through my own research and also growing up, and also keep you informed about this terminally online drama. Speaking of which, if you're new here, consider subscribing. Helps out the channel, helps my monkey brain when I see the number go up. And if you end up enjoying this video, want to get it in front of more people, please consider hitting that like button, followed up with a hype perchance. You get like 3 a week. It would really help me out. But regardless, truly, if you do any of that shit, just thank you for watching. Now jumping into the clip.
We here at the core crib. We got a new pet. It's an alpaca. It gives us like 500 mats if you break it.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm getting I got a new pet. I ran out of content today, so I went to the pet store and got an alpaca. You can talk.
Jason, how about next time you run out of content, you use your fucking brain and like come up with a good idea?
Nah. I mean, bro, this is a genius idea. I mean, who has a pet alpaca? Look. Huh? What do you think? Look. Oh, you want to hug her? Oh, you want to go, boy. So she hung up.
Now that you've seen the actual clip here, let's go through piece by piece and explain why a good chunk of people think that this is really, really stupid, including myself. Now, you heard someone that he had called on the phone was FaceTiming to show them what he had done, and that is Maya Higa. She is another streamer. There's actually a live stream of what she has here, Alvia Sanctuary. She actually recently did a TED Talk about this, where she has raised literally millions of dollars for animal preservation, taking care of them. And as you can see here, as it's described, what this Alvia Sanctuary that she runs is a virtual education center following the journeys of our non-releasable animal ambassadors, aiming to educate and spark an appreciation for them and their wild counterparts. And she'll bring on various different streamers, like she's had Marlon, I believe she's even had Jason and a bunch of others, come to the sanctuary and learn about animals. So you could expect that not only would Jason know that this would annoy Maya at the bare minimum, but that he would know that what he's doing is not necessarily a great thing, even if he doesn't specifically know why it isn't for each animal in particular. But to just take at face value what he just said, I bought a bunch of animals. Now I have a pet alpaca. There were some chickens there, goats, there was a rabbit, all of them in a very small enclosure that he was walking around with them in. Already being a full-time streamer and everybody else, and not actually, and this is realistic, dedicating any time to actually properly maintaining and taking care of any of these animals, that's already negligent and stupid. Realistically, he rented these animals out for the day to do the stream, got the pen set up and everything, and they'll be sent back, which also, engaging in that kind of trade of animals is not very beneficial to them either. But that's not even really the point that I'm trying to make here. To kind of continue on, we actually had Jacksepticeye replying to that Yoxic tweet showing this video. He replies to it saying, the fact that people are saying, doesn't Maya do this too, shows how shitty this is to do. Calling her to get a reaction live is gross. And can you actually see Jason replied to Jack saying, are you dead ass right now? Seemingly upset that he's getting this pushback. Now, I think this is a big point of what I don't think should be, specifically nuanced and just kind of more common sense is this difference between, zoos that get shit for what they do versus zoos that don't. What Maya runs is a sanctuary. There is a bit of rehabilitation from what I understand, but also she is taking care of animals that are unreleasable, meaning if they were put back out into the wild due to various injuries, or maybe this is an animal like, for instance, there are birds that if they are abandoned and then they are hand raised by humans, they are not releasable back in the wild because they will just die, or they will, do something wrong because they'll try to go up to people when they realistically shouldn't be because they're wild animals. Only the keepers of them would understand their behavior and would actually have, their best interests in mind. Editor Quintio here, they also just don't behave like they would normally in the wild, specifically with like prey animals. If they're hand raised and they just get along well with, humans, things like that, they lose their instinct to run away from something that could kill them, which just invariably ends up getting them iced when they return back to the wild. I completely forgot to say this while I was covering it, felt stupid, and felt the need to record this, so here I am as a frog. Back to normal, Quintio. That is a big difference between, taking care of an animal that truly cannot be released back into the wild versus just taking animals like SeaWorld, for instance, where they would just pluck whales and dolphins and shit out of the ocean and bring them in. And then they make them unreleasable because if they try to let them back out into the wild, they won't behave like they lived in the wild. On a surface level, yes, Maya makes content focused around taking care of these animals and, showcasing them on her live streams, but it is truly just a surface level observation that you can make to compare what Jason is doing here, which is just bringing them out for a day or a couple of days, versus Maya actively, trying to rehabilitate or educate people on these different animals. But that isn't all. I also wanted to teach you guys a little bit about a bit more that I learned today that originally I was going to put some light on because I disagreed with it and that it didn't make sense to me. Now, this comes from Diana here on Twitter. They said, "Hi, alpaca farmer and agriculture professional here." And I found this interesting, so I went into looking at it. They follow up saying, "This is abusive to the animals because petting zoos are genuinely like psychological torture to prey animals, but more specifically, the alpaca, as they are very naturally adverse to humans, so conditioning one to be pet all day is really mentally destructive to them. This is worsened by there only being one alpaca present. Alpacas, like all camelids, need to be with their own herd as much as possible, as when solo or over-socialized, they can develop a nasty condition referred to as berserk alpaca syndrome. Yes, I'm serious. It's bad. You gotta put them down. This shit sucks to watch. Stupid clout chasers have always been negligent, but come on." Now, admittedly, upon hearing that, I thought that sounded a bit crazy, especially the, berserk alpaca syndrome. The reason for that is, number one, that sounds crazy, but number two, like I said earlier, I have a relative who owns a business, and as a part of that business, there is a small petting zoo, and that petting zoo is included goats, sheep, sometimes donkeys, including llamas. Matter of fact, there was a llama that I was a huge fan of growing up, and I thought they were super cool. And they were a part of this petting zoo where, you would come up to hand feed, and then you would get to pet the next of the llamas or, pet the goats when they came by. From my experience, I hadn't seen any issues with these llamas having any, trouble being at a petting zoo or these different animals, but like I'm specifying here, that was a llama versus an alpaca, and there are some interesting differences between the two of them. I'm sorry if this is not the most terminally online video that I have done in recent, but this is just very interesting to me as well, so I wanted to show you guys. I checked a various different websites because I don't have much experience with alpacas, but this does seem to line up with how I understand llamas to be. But so the differences for alpacas are they are generally shy and gentle, more comfortable around other alpacas rather than humans, and are easily stressed by loud noise or sudden movement. Hence, when, Jason smacks the back of one of them, it kind of walks away and tries to stay away from him. Llamas, on the other hand, tend to be more confident and independent, comfortable interacting with humans, and used as guard animals because of their alert nature. And I remember hearing from my relative that they actually had the llamas a part of the petting zoo as, kind of guard animals for the rest of them. Now, they point out here that both alpacas and llamas spit, but from what I've seen from other websites as well, between the two of them, it is much more likely, though, that a llama is going to spit at a person in kind of a response to, aggression, being irritable or frightened. And alpacas are more likely to spit at each other. And usually they're just going to kind of make a noise and kind of alert that they're uncomfortable. They don't nearly spit as much as llamas do. And unfortunately, in regard to the berserk alpaca syndrome, it is also labeled as berserk llama syndrome here on Wikipedia. And It is a psychological condition experienced by human-raised camelids, particularly llamas and alpacas, that can cause them to exhibit dangerously aggressive behavior towards humans. Now, the reason for this, juvenile llamas, or I'm assuming also alpacas cria, will imprint on human handlers to such a degree that it considers them to be fellow llamas and alpacas. And a big contributing factor to causing this is it being isolated from other llamas. When it reaches maturity, it cannot distinguish humans from other llamas and may try to demonstrate its dominance. Adult male inter-llama interaction can be rough, including chest ramming, charging, leg wrestling, and biting, and they're strongly territorial, which will turn into them trying to do that to people. Apparently, they also attempt to sneak up on their owners and attack them from behind, which just sounds like a cartoon in my head of something with such a long neck trying to sneak up behind you. But this literally does lead to them being euthanized. And it turns out, even if they end up getting castrated or they're called gelded males, it can still show up in them. Let me make this clear though. Jason himself is not causing this, berserk syndrome in this alpaca. I am just simply talking about it and learning more about it because it was brought up by that other Twitter user who says that they, raise alpacas professionally. However, in whatever trade that he's taking part in, I would assume that this is renting. I just find it harder to believe that this isn't just a rental thing and he just said that he bought them to own them as a part of the bid for the stream. And so engaging in this trade, where they're probably only being handled by other people, I hope that there are other alpacas that they can socialize with when they're in wherever they are. But this kind of trade helps exacerbate something like this. And I should also include, very rarely did I ever get into the pen with these llamas, even in my own experience. The fact that he is in there with them and not giving them any space to kind of, calm down, get situated with wherever the new location that they are in isn't good. That's how you create a very high stress environment. It was trying to stay away from him in the entirety of the clip you saw. Now, unfortunately and realistically, this was all done on purpose. Obviously, Jason called up Maya to rage bait her, to get this to blow up, to get it to go viral, and he succeeded in that. And I am not helping by making a video talking about this, but I genuinely love animals. I think they're dope as hell. I am a dork when it comes to learning about animals. And so for me, that was just a main motivating factor for making this video. I wanted to showcase some of this stuff because it's incredibly interesting. And also I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding about animal behavior because we do so much personifying of, our own human characteristics onto animals, like dogs. I have my own dog. You guys have seen him here and there. His name is Socrates, or Socks for short. He's adorable and he's fantastic. And he is the most domesticated animal on the planet. Just because you can pet an animal does not mean that it is domesticated. Doesn't mean that it is a good idea to do that. And it also doesn't mean getting into an enclosure with it, with as small as it is a good idea or is going to be okay for the animal simply because it has been pet before. And to have Jason touting this around and unfortunately possibly inspiring other streamers or other people to do the same, or at least treat the animals the same way that he is, I believe is a net negative, generally speaking. But I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe I'm too empathetic to this kind of situation. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, perhaps even learned a little bit. And if you really did enjoy it, leave a like I said earlier, perchance a hype. Consider joining the Discord if you want to stay up to news about drama, play some video games. We actually just got a new Magic the Gathering thread to chat about that stuff too. Also, while we're at it, just because I remember, we have merch, Milkman merch. You can get the mug or some of my cool hoodies or shirts. But that's it. I'll see you guys later. Adios. Peace. Bye.